Do you know this feeling? A slight déjà vu when you're sure you've been here before. A strange coincidence that feels like something more. Or a vivid memory of an event that never happened. Every second, your senses transmit 11 million bits of data to your brain, the equivalent of a small book. Yet your conscious mind processes no more than 50 bits, which is like reading just 3 words. Herein lies the main paradox. Your brain, a survival machine, honed by millions of years of evolution. Its task, to assess reality as accurately as possible to make correct decisions. So why does it systematically err, create illusions, and form false memories? Because these glitches aren't defects. They are system settings, a vulnerability in the code that we are about to expose. In the next 3 minutes, you'll discover why 99.9999% of objective reality bypasses your conscious mind every second, and how one experiment with a gorilla proves this. How could our brain, evolutionarily tuned to detect threats, completely ignore a person in a gorilla suit right before its eyes? The experiment by Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris, conducted at Harvard in '99, was a true blow to the idea of objective sight, and a second, even stranger mystery. How is it possible that millions of people worldwide vividly remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, when in fact he was released and only died in 2013? Whose memory is lying? One person's or an entire generation's? These are not rhetorical questions. We will provide a comprehensive answer to the first in Section 2. We will uncover the secret of collective memory in Section 3, but the mechanism that generates it will only be revealed in Section 6. This video will give you an arsenal of 6 powerful tools for diagnosing perception glitches. You will stop being a passive observer who takes reality for granted. By the end of this video, you will learn to see the seams in the matrix of your consciousness, transforming into an active explorer. This will forever change your view on 3 key things: your own memory and its reliability, intuition and where insights come from, and daily decisions, or rather who truly makes them. Before this video, you trusted your brain. Afterward, you will learn to verify it. 50% of subjects, fully concentrated on counting passes, failed to notice a person in a gorilla suit who walked into the center, beat their chest, and left. How can a brain designed for survival ignore such an obvious threat? This is the first tool in your arsenal, inattentional blindness. It's not a vision defect, but a defense mechanism. To avoid overload, the brain creates a narrow tunnel of attention and filters out everything unrelated to the current task. Your attention flows like a riverbed, ignoring everything beyond its banks. But it's not just about one gorilla. This experiment merely exposed a basic operating mode of your consciousness. Every second, 11 million bits of data enter your brain, but your conscious mind processes no more than 50. This means that 99.999% of reality is filtered out upon arrival. You don't see the world, but a tiny, edited version, tailored to your goals. This is why drivers don't see motorcyclists, and radiologists can miss a tumor in an X-ray. And it explains why we are so confident in our correctness, even when completely blind. What makes the brain so stubbornly cling to this dangerous blindness? The answer: cognitive laziness. This internal conflict embodies our main antagonist, the autopilot brain, or System 1, as Nobel laureates Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky called it. The autopilot brain operates on the principle of minimal energy expenditure. Analyzing, doubting, noticing new things, all of this is energy intensive. It's much simpler to follow familiar patterns, ignoring everything else. In 1979, Kahneman and Tversky published their prospect theory. It was a scientific earthquake that shattered the image of rational man, which had dominated science for over 2 centuries. They proved this laziness is not an accident, but a systemic principle that forces us to make predictably irrational decisions. Your brain is willing to sacrifice objectivity and even benefit for the sake of mental comfort. Our irrationality is a programmed function. This innate laziness has become the main target for persuasion technologies, which we will discuss in Section 5. If this blindness is a fundamental principle, where else do invisible gorillas hide? At first, it seems harmless. You don't notice a colleague's new haircut. You don't see a new store on your usual route. You can't find an item that's right in front of you. The autopilot brain simply cuts these unimportant details out of your reality. But the numbers shatter this illusion of safety. Financial analysts who completely miss the signs of the 2008 crisis. NASA engineers who analyzed 1.67 gigabytes of data before the Columbia shuttle disaster but missed a key warning because they were looking for other anomalies. And here's the detail that makes the situation truly frightening. Incompetent people are not just blind to their mistakes. Their incompetence deprives them of the very ability to realize this blindness. The more we don't see, the more confident we are in our correctness. But blindness to the present is only half the battle. The next glitch in the matrix affects not individuals, but entire generations, rewriting history in their minds. So, we have established the first principle of malfunction. Our brain creates a tunnel of reality, filtering out almost 100% of information. We are literally blind to what our focus is not directed at. This calls into question the reliability of our perception in the here and now. But what happens when the glitch affects not the present, but the past? And not just one person, but millions simultaneously. What if there are memory viruses that infect the minds of the masses, making them remember what never was? We are entering territory where not one person, but entire generations make mistakes. This is the Mandela Effect, and it calls into question the very fabric of shared reality. The second tool in your arsenal, the Mandela Effect. Remember the famous line from Star Wars. Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father." But he never said that. The actual line is a "No, I am your father." Why do millions of people, including you, remember a non-existent quote? This isn't an isolated glitch. Researchers count hundreds of such errors in collective memory. The Monopoly man never wore a monocle. The children's books were called Berenstain Bears, not Berenstein. The Ford logo never had a swirl on the letter F. Online polls show that over 40% of people are convinced they remember Nelson Mandela's death in prison. Your personal memory can be wrong. But when millions of people from different countries without conspiring remember the same non-existent detail, it calls reality itself into question. That's why your memory is not a hard drive, but a Wikipedia page that anyone can edit. How can entire generations remember a lie? Conspiracy theories speak of parallel universes. The scientific explanation is more unsettling. It's right there in your head. Your memory doesn't work like a video camera. It works like a constructor. Every time you recall something, your brain doesn't play a recording. It reassembles the event from fragmented pieces. Other people's stories, guesses, and simple errors easily weave into this process. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus proved how easy it is to implant false memories. By simply changing one word in a question, she made accident witnesses recall non-existent broken glass. Your memory isn't a repository of the past. It's a creative process happening right now. Every memory is a new memory of a previous memory, and at each stage, errors creep in. Your memory isn't a photograph. It's a sketch you redraw every time. And what's your most vivid false memory that you were 100% sure of? Let's move from theory to practice. Take this 3-question test within the next 15 seconds. 3 famous images will now appear on screen. Choose the option you think is correct. First, the Volkswagen logo, with a gap between the V and W, or without. The correct answer, with a gap. Second, Pikachu's tail, with a black tip or completely yellow. The correct answer, completely yellow. Third, the evil queen's line from Snow White. Mirror, mirror on the wall, or magic mirror on the wall. The correct answer, magic mirror on the wall. Write in the comments how many of the 3 examples you got wrong. Don't worry if you missed all 3, you're in good company. Just now, you thought your memory was reliable. Now you know it's a co-author of your reality. So, we have established, our past is not a monolithic archive, but a constantly edited document. Our memory is plastic, vulnerable, and susceptible to collective viruses. Trust in it must be critical. But what if the brain distorts not only the past, but also the present? What if it makes us see connections and patterns where there is pure randomness? This is a glitch of a different kind. Not a distortion of what was, but the creation of illusions about what is right now. This mechanism, which makes you see your newly purchased car on every corner, is the 3rd glitch in our system. The next step will reveal how your brain turns into a coincidence-finding machine, creating an illusion of order out of chaos. Have you ever learned a new word, and then it suddenly started to haunt you? Or bought a red car, and suddenly the whole city was flooded with its clones? Did the world change overnight, or did something change in your head? This is the 3rd tool in your arsenal, the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, or frequency illusion. It's a 2-stage process. First, selective attention. When something becomes important to you, your brain tags it. Second, confirmation bias. Your brain aggressively starts looking for evidence of the new pattern, discarding everything else. This isn't just a funny glitch, it's a belief factory. This is how faith in signs of destiny and conspiracy theories is born. The brain isn't looking for truth, but for confirmation of its own correctness. Because that gives it pleasure. You don't see what is, but what your brain is prepared to see. Your perception, not a mirror, but a spotlight. And this explains why an advertisement you glimpsed makes you buy a product a week later, even though you don't realize it. Where does this obsession with pattern seeking come from? From a survival perspective, a false pattern can be deadly. The paradox is that the brain prefers erroneous order to complete chaos. It's all about the reticular formation. This is your internal spam filter. When you learn a new word, the filter receives an instruction. This is important now, let it through. And you start noticing it everywhere, even though it was there before. But it's not just about the filter. Every confirmation, every red car found, triggers a micro-release of dopamine. This is the pleasure hormone. The brain literally rewards itself for being right, even if that rightness is an illusion. We are dopamine addicts, dependent on the confirmation of our own hypotheses. Your brain behaves like a predator. Once it sees a trace of prey, it starts noticing similar prints everywhere, ignoring the traces of all others. What was the last frequency illusion you noticed in your life? Why do people with opposing views live in different realities, seeing only confirmation of their own righteousness around them? After all, access to information is limitless. A doctor who encounters a rare disease begins to see its symptoms in everyone. An investigator fixated on one theory finds only evidence for it. But today, this effect is amplified by technology thousands of times over. Media, by repeating a news story, create the illusion of its importance. Social media algorithms build a filter bubble around you where your point of view seems to be the only correct one. For a piece of news to be perceived as a widely known fact, it only needs to be repeated in the media 3 to 5 times. And this effect is especially strong in people without deep knowledge of the subject. Their brains cling to simple, often repeated ideas. While some suffer from this, others have learned to use it. Now imagine that someone can artificially create this illusion for you, subtly planting the desired idea in your brain. So, your brain not only ignores 99% of reality and rewrites the past, it actively creates illusory patterns in the present to get a dose of dopamine. So far, we've talked about glitches that operate automatically. This is passive self-deception. But what if someone has learned to hack this system? What if one can subtly pull the strings of your attention, pushing you towards desired decisions? There is a mechanism that allows this. It's called priming. This is the most unsettling glitch of all that we will examine because it turns your brain into a tool for manipulating you. The next section is dedicated to the invisible threads that control your decisions seconds before you even realize them. In '96, psychologist John Bargh conducted a quiet experiment. Students formed sentences from words associated with old age, wise, wrinkled, Florida. Then they simply walked down a hallway. Bargh silently measured the time. The result, they moved 13% slower than the control group. How could a few words on paper physically slow down young people? This is the fourth tool in your arsenal. Priming. The exposure to one stimulus changes your reaction to subsequent ones. It's like pressing one key, and it makes other related strings resonate. The brain, charged with the idea of old age, activated the entire network of associations, including slowness. But it's not just about words. The smell of cleaning solution in a room makes people neater. A brief display of a briefcase image makes them more competitive. A warm cup of coffee in hand makes one evaluate the conversational partner as a warmer person. Your decisions, and even physical actions, are echoes of stimuli you didn't consciously process. You think you're deciding for yourself, but the ground for it was prepared beforehand. Why are we completely blind to this influence? The answer lies in the main conflict in your head. Priming is a hacker attack on your autopilot brain on System 1. It throws a ready-made association at it, which it accepts without criticism because it's easy and fast. Your conscious and lazy System 2 simply doesn't have time to kick in and ask, why did I suddenly decide to do that? It merely finds a logical explanation post factum for a decision already made for it. An operation with a 90% survival rate seems much more attractive than the same operation with a 10% mortality rate. The information is identical, but the first word primes the brain for positivity, and the second for negativity. Your free will is not so much the ability to make decisions as the ability to veto the autopilot's impulse at the last moment. But you cannot veto an influence you haven't even noticed. Priming is like a light touch that imperceptibly changes your balance. You continue walking, thinking you chose the direction yourself, but in reality, you are just compensating for a push you didn't feel. Where exactly do these invisible threads pull us every day? Slow music in a supermarket makes you move slower and buy more. Playing French music in the wine aisle increases sales of French wines almost 5-fold. The smell of fresh baked goods primes for a feeling of comfort and hunger. But these are harmless tricks. Technology has moved into politics. Political strategists use the term death tax instead of inheritance tax to prime voters for negativity. The presence of a national flag in a courtroom can influence the severity of sentences. News headlines with a single word set the tone for the entire perception of an event. And here's the detail that makes us defenseless. We fiercely deny the influence of priming on ourselves. We admit that it works on others, but our own choice is always the result of rational analysis. This is the main vulnerability, so your autopilot brain is vulnerable. Hidden stimuli can change your behavior without your knowledge, and you can't even trace the connection. But if external forces can so easily deceive your brain, what is it capable of on its own? What happens when gaps form in your memory? Does it leave them empty, or does it do something far stranger? We return to the mystery of collective memory, but on a new level. We will uncover the mechanism that underlies the Mandela Effect. It's called confabulation, your brain's art of lying to itself so convincingly that you never doubt it. The next glitch in the matrix. It's an internal architect of lies that constructs your autobiography, and you shouldn't trust it. Imagine a person whose memory is erased every few minutes. He cannot form new memories, but he is not in a panic. He is calm. He has just made up who he is and why he is here. This is the fifth tool in your arsenal, confabulation. Not a lie, but a creative act of self-preservation. The brain hates gaps in the narrative and fills them with the most logical guess. At first glance, this seems to be the lot of people with severe brain injuries. But here's the reality that hits hard. This mechanism works in each of us, constantly. In Michael Gazzaniga's experiments, the right hemisphere of a split-brain patient was given a command to wave. The left hemisphere, unaware of the reason, instantly fabricated an explanation. I saw a friend in the window. Your consciousness is not a director making decisions, but a press secretary who post factum invents convincing justifications for actions taken by your autopilot. Why does the brain need such a complex deception mechanism? The answer lies in its panic fear of one thing: emptiness. Why can't the brain simply say, "I don't remember"? Because in the wild, a coherent picture of the world, even an inaccurate one, allowed for quick action. It's better to mistakenly assume a stick is a snake than to ignore a snake. A complete story, even if fabricated, creates an illusion of control. And this very mechanism is one of the main drivers of the Mandela Effect. When millions of people encounter a gap in their memory about a logo or a quote, their brains collectively construct the most probable version. This is how a shared but false reality is born. Your personality, yourself. It's not a set of facts, but a story that the brain continuously tells itself. In a classic experiment, changing the word collided to smashed. In a question about an accident made 32% of witnesses recall non-existent broken glass. It's as if every third moviegoer saw a special effect that wasn't there. And this internal scriptwriter is capable not only of editing facts, but also of inserting entire chapters into your biography that never existed. How can you make an adult remember something that never happened? At first, it seems impossible. We embellish stories, add details to dreams, but that's the limit, right? Elizabeth Loftus's experiments shatter this certainty. Up to 25% of subjects who were instilled with a false memory of getting lost in a shopping mall as children not only agreed with it, they began to independently recall non-existent details. The appearance of the old man who helped them, their feelings, the sounds around them. This is equivalent to every fourth reader of a book suddenly remembering the smells and sounds from a scene the author never wrote. Your autobiography is not a stone tablet, but a draft that is constantly being edited without your knowledge. What part of your most cherished memories is reality, and what part is the work of your internal scriptwriter? So, your brain is not a fact recorder, but an architect of lies. It will do anything to create a smooth and consistent story. It ignores the obvious, invents the non-existent, and creates false patterns. Each of these glitches is a tool in its arsenal. But what happens when all these tools are used together, in one powerful chord? When random coincidences filtered by your attention and filled in by your memory begin to look like signs of destiny? We have come to the last, most mystical glitch in our system. The following story will make even the most convinced skeptic doubt randomness. Carl Jung was listening to a patient's dream about a golden scarab beetle when he heard a quiet tapping on his office window in Zurich. Outside, a bronze beetle, incredibly similar to the one in the dream, was beating against the pane. How to explain an event whose probability approaches zero? This is the sixth and final tool in your arsenal: synchronicity. A meaningful coincidence that promises the world is full of signs meant for you. But this is a perfect storm in your perception. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon made them notice precisely this beetle, ignoring hundreds of other insects. Confabulation post factum filled in details, making the beetle perfectly resemble the one in the dream. Cognitive biases are lenses that individually only slightly distort light. But when they align, they focus random rays of reality into one blinding beam of meaning. Synchronicity is not a glitch in the matrix. It is the highest manifestation of your brain's operating system. Why does a coincidence that is mathematically bound to happen still feel like a miracle to us? The law of large numbers is simple. With 8 billion people on the planet, an event with a 1 in a million probability occurs 8,000 times a day. Incredible coincidences are statistically guaranteed, but your brain is not a calculator, it's a pattern-seeking machine. Over millions of years of evolution, the ability to instantly see a predator in the bushes was more important than precise analysis. The brain defaults to seeking a signal and would rather invent one than accept the existence of pure noise. And here's the choice the autopilot makes for you: the cold truth of statistics or a beautiful story about a world full of meaning. fMRI scans show that pleasure centers in the brain activate when a pattern is found, even a false one. This built-in reward mechanism is the answer to the main mystery: why the brain, designed for survival, so systematically distorts reality. How did evolution create the brain not as a tool for discovering truth, but as a machine for creating useful illusions? Here's a simple test for reproducibility. Random coincidences don't repeat on demand. Real patterns do. But our brain is not adapted to this test. Pareidolia, faces in clouds, figures on Mars. This is the final metaphor. We see meaningful images in random noise because we are programmed to. Out of 11 million bits of information per second, consciousness processes only 50. We don't see 99.999% of reality, and from the remnants, the brain builds a story convenient to it. And here's the answer. The brain distorts reality because objectivity is an unaffordable luxury for survival. Quick recognition of false patterns, energy saving through ignoring information, and creation of a coherent world picture for fast decisions. This is what ensured our dominance as a species, not the pursuit of truth. The glitch is not an error, but the operating system itself. But does this mean we are doomed to be its slaves? We started with the invisible gorilla and ended with the greatest self-deception: meaningful coincidence. We have established a glitch is not an exception, but a fundamental rule of how our brain works. Are we doomed to be puppets of our autopilot, forever living in the reality it designed? Or, by knowing the code of these glitches, can we finally take control, becoming not victims of illusions, but conscious pilots of our perception? The answer is yes. In the next 3 minutes, you will receive a practical 3-step model on how to reboot your perception. Your attention is like a spotlight in a dark room. You thought you were controlling it yourself, but it has 2 automatic modes. The first, inattentional blindness. This is an energy-saving mode that narrows the beam to a minimum, creating blind spots for everything familiar. The second, the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. This is a sticky mode that fixes the beam on something new, creating hotspots and the illusion of frequency. Your attention works like a sieve. Blindness is the mesh size, letting all familiar things pass through. The phenomenon is a new stone stuck in the mesh, making you notice only it. The first step to control: forcibly disable the automation. In any situation, ask yourself, what else is here that I'm not noticing? This will force you to widen the beam and look for what isn't a hotspot. We have calibrated the present. But what about the editors who rewrite your past and program your future? Your personal story is not a manuscript carved in stone, but a constantly edited document. 2 editors are responsible for the past. Confabulation. Your personal author who adds chapters to your autobiography so that there are no gaps. The Mandela Effect. A collective editor who synchronizes your edits with millions of others, creating a shared illusion. But there is also a programmer of the future, priming. It doesn't change the text, but inserts hidden commands and scripts that subtly guide your future decisions. The second step, mental fact-checking. Before an important decision or when recalling a strong memory, ask 2 questions. Is this memory based on facts or on a story that is convenient to tell? And why am I leaning towards this decision right now? Is this my analysis or something I recently saw that is pushing me? We have learned to check the present and the past. But what about the brain's most powerful program, the meaning generator? The pinnacle of the pyramid, synchronicity. It uses all glitches at once. You think of an old friend, perhaps due to priming. You start noticing his rare car make, that's Baader-Meinhof, ignoring hundreds of others due to inattentional blindness. When he suddenly calls, your brain constructs a thrilling story about an invisible connection. That's confabulation. But this isn't the brain deceiving you. It's its greatest gift. This system transforms a chaotic world into an ordered and meaningful narrative, which is the basis of mental health. 100% objectivity would be paralyzing. It was for the discovery that the brain is a meaning-making machine, not a probability calculator, that Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky laid the foundation for the Nobel Prize. Knowing these mechanisms gives you a choice. You can enjoy the story the brain tells like a good movie, or, at any moment, pause and look behind the scenes. Now that you have all the tools, you stand before the final choice. This choice determines everything. Path 1. Consider these glitches a fundamental bug in your system. This is the path of the scientist, a path of constant vigilance, critical thinking, and battling the autopilot brain for maximum objectivity. Path 2. Consider these glitches a key feature of your operating system. This is the path of the artist, accepting that illusions and stories are necessary for creativity and mental health. A path of harmony with your nature. There is no right answer. There is only your choice. We have walked this path together, and now it's your turn. How do you see these glitches? A bug to be fixed or a feature to be embraced? Write just one word in the comments that defines your path. Bug or feature?